This is Analytics with Asa, hosted on the FF Faceoff YouTube channel. Today, I'm joined by a repeat guest, and I think the first time in my show's history, a back-to-back guest, Tej Seth. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Yeah, it's good to come back on again. Last episode was so much fun, so had to run it back pretty quickly after recording that with you.
Yes, absolutely. So in our time of recording multiple shows, we've talked a lot about different pop culture things, most notably pizza and movies more recently. And so I figured to kind of complete the trifecta, we should talk about the arguably most important thing of that, and that is music. So I want to present you with a question. If you could only listen to one album for the rest of your life, what would that album be? And I do think that may be a bit different than what your favorite album could be, because sometimes listening to an album over and over again gets old, even if it's good. So what would be your answer to that question, my friend?
Yeah, this was a great question. Very tough question. I thought about it a lot. I know he's had a little bit of a rough year, but like I grew up a big Drake fan. I still really enjoy listening to his music. So there's still something special to me, about like the album. If you're reading this, it's too late. Like, that came out when I was in high school. Like everyone was listening to it at the time. Like it went through the whole set list and like kind of know all the songs from it. And so like I feel like that album would be really good for me because I listen to a lot of music while I'm working, and it's like a high energy album. So like it kind of keep me focused, but also like I just like a lot of the songs on there. Like to like kind of sing along to some of the songs like 10 Bands or Energy or Legend. Like I feel like those songs are very ingrained in what I listened to in high school and continue to listen to. So that would be my pick for the album for the rest of my life.
I'm not a big Drake guy, but I think even among the people that don't love Drake, that's probably the one where they're like, all right, this one's pretty good. And so, yeah, I think that's a great pick. For me, it's really tough. There's probably two that are in my head, and they're very, very different albums. The first one is going to be What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That's like arguably one of the best soul albums of all time. It came out in like the 70s, and it kind of bookended his Motown like doo-wop career, and then it started his like more soul and R&B era. And like that album is just him flexing how good of a singer he is, and it's just really feel good, even if the lyrics are like deeply political, which I respect a lot. But it's probably between that and there's this one album by a band I like called Loathe, called I Let It In and It Took Everything. And it's a lot of metal, but a lot of like really nice singing too. And there's also these little like musical interludes that have this like drone sound. And I could talk about music all day, but it's really tough between those two. I may go with the classic and pick What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That one's really, really good. But yeah, I think those are some good picks right there. So despite music being very important, we are here to talk about things that are more important. And that is arguably the best division in football, and that is the NFC North. So free agency, at least the first wave, has kind of come and gone. So given all of that, how do you think the NFC North's division as a whole has handled free agency?
Yeah, I mean it was classic NFC North where like you have all these teams that are going to turn over every stone that they can to get better. And I thought we saw that being executed by basically all the teams this free agency relative to their circumstances. So, you look at where the Vikings and Bears are at, where they have these quarterbacks on rookie contracts, which is really allowing them to spend a lot of money and resources to build up the rest of their roster, and they took full advantage of that with all the pieces that they added on both sides of the ball from those teams' perspective. And then for the Lions and Packers, you have these like big contracts that are on your roster, especially at the quarterback position. And so it was a lot more of like these minor moves, like some key re-signings of like players that are rotational or depth pieces to bring back. Maybe like one big free agency move where the Packers had Aaron Banks as the guard that they spent a lot of money on. The Lions had DJ Reed as the corner that they wanted to spend a lot of money on. But overall, it was just a lot of making sure that they're in good cap health going forward. And so I thought it was really interesting to watch the dynamic between the teams that have quarterbacks on rookie contracts versus the teams that have quarterbacks on top of the market extensions.
Yeah, I think you bring a great point where there's these two major different philosophies between the different teams in the division, and you have the rookie scale deal where the teams can afford to spend a lot more money, like splurge a little more in free agency. And then you had the a little bit more conservative approach, especially with the Packers not really making a lot of moves aside from that Aaron Banks signing. So given all of that, did you have a personal favorite move that a team in this division made? There were a lot of good moves.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of really good moves out there. The two that I really liked were both cornerback signings. So Byron Murphy for the Vikings, like given the state of the Vikings cornerback room, and then also like how well Byron Murphy can play. With having a Pro Bowl season last year, and just being like a very good player that can play both inside and outside against a versatile group of receivers. Like I thought that was really good to bring him back at the money that they got him back for. So I was really good with that. And it was paired with the Isaiah Rodgers signing, who I think is a good like CB3. So like you're really rounding out your cornerback room. So that was really really good from the Vikings front office. And then from the Lions perspective, I was very happy with the DJ Reed signing. You let Carlton Davis walk. Carlton Davis played well for the Lions for most of last season, but he is pretty injury prone, and he's very expensive on the open market. You get DJ Reed for a lot cheaper, and a lot of the separation and catch point metrics that you look at for cornerbacks like show those two corners as pretty similar. So to get DJ Reed in there, and have someone opposite Terrion Arnold was also a pretty good move from the Lions' perspective.
Yeah, I really like the DJ Reed signing because what I find so interesting about him is that he's built more like a slot corner. He's like 5'9", 180, which is very small for a boundary corner, but he's so good as a boundary corner. And Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings had this really cool analysis that I liked a lot, where he said, don't worry about guys who have built-in solutions to their problems. And so people may look at DJ Reed and say, hey, he's 5'9", he's not going to be great at contested catches, but he was really good at that. And that's what I find really impressive about him is that despite that kind of smaller frame, he did a great job playing as a boundary corner with the Jets the past few seasons. And I anticipate him also doing that with the Lions. One of my favorite moves, me being a little bit of a homer, I really like the Jonathan Allen signing, just because you're not going to have to give up anything compensatory because he was a recent cap casualty. But he is just a really good pass rusher, and that's what the Vikings needed. It's actually what we talked about last episode, is me pairing Milton Williams to the Vikings. I did not really anticipate him getting that $26 million a year deal that he got with the Patriots, but you get that for significantly cheaper with Jonathan Allen. It's like a 3-year, $60 million contract, but a lot of that is also funny money. So my guess is they may end up cutting him after the second year, but you get a really good pass rusher. Javon Hargrave as well was really solid with the Niners as a pass rusher. Both those guys are not amazing run defenders, but I think the Flores scheme has been good at defending the run already. And so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, NFC North was a very exciting division to follow when it came to free agency. Equally as exciting, I think, is the NFL draft. And so before we cover roster by roster with each of these teams, did you have anyone in the draft who is just one of your guys? So someone who may not be the absolute best at their position, but you just love watching or you love talking about when it comes to the 2025 NFL draft?
Yeah, so there's definitely a couple players I really like in this draft, and I saw you talking about one of them on Twitter the other day. I think with our friend Brett Coleman, with respect to the Josiah Stewart from Michigan. Like I just think that he can be such a high end edge rusher in the league just because he is able to just like get pressure constantly on the quarterback. And this Michigan defensive line was like so much fun to watch last year on like a pretty bland Michigan team where you had Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant in the middle, just causing a lot of havoc. You had Josiah Stewart on the outside also doing the same thing and just constantly getting to the quarterback and affecting the quarterback as well. And like he won't have the same like one-on-one matchups as often in the NFL. Like I definitely think you have to account for that because of just how good the interior of Michigan's defensive line was. But I still think that just like the measurables and the pass rush production is there.
Yeah, I would almost call Josiah Stewart the DJ Reed of edge rushers because he's very short. He's 6'1", which is not short for an average person, but for an edge rusher where the average height is like 6'3", 6'4", that's kind of a lot shorter. His arms are not super long, but despite that, he was arguably the most productive pass rusher in terms of pass rush win rate, which is a really good metric for measuring like how consistent you can be year over year. Another guy who was also very productive, despite not being like the most highly touted draft prospect is Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee. So he was kind of part of that hockey lineup where they would switch guys in and out a lot in Tennessee's defensive line. But despite that, his pass rush win rate was 17.7%, which is second among all defensive linemen, just behind Derek Harmon, who's projected to be a first-round pick. Now, a lot of people think Omar Norman Lott's going to be like mid-second round pick. And despite that, he's really, really productive. And so I like him quite a bit. He's definitely one of my big draft crushes. But yeah, I think Josiah Stewart's a great pick.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really like that one as well. I just think like, yeah, this draft is definitely like so deep at certain positions, and like defensive line is one of them. And so like I'm very curious to see how teams kind of treat that throughout the draft, where like you have your two really high end guys in Abdul Carter and Mason Graham at the beginning, and then you usually see like 6 defensive linemen drafted in the first round. We'll probably see a higher amount of that this year, but like you can go into the later rounds and still find capable defensive linemen for your team.
Yeah, 100%. So I wanted to do an exercise with you, and this is something we plan on doing with every team in the team in the NFL. But we're gonna start with the NFC North for this episode, and I want to cover the moves that each team made in free agency, give a little bit of a roster overview, and then based on that, what we would do in a PFF mock draft. So if we were the GMs of the team, what would we do in the draft in order to make our team quite a bit better? So before we really get to draft coverage, let's start with the Bears. We're going to go division ranking down. So the Bears are going to be first. Let's cover what they did in free agency. So let me see if I can pull that up. So courtesy of PFF, they have, there we go. Okay. So yeah, they have pretty much an overview of what the team did in free agency. And the Bears were one of the more active teams, signing Grady Jarrett, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney, who they traded for. Were there any of these moves that kind of stood out for you that may make the team quite a bit better?
Yeah, I thought it was just like a strong testament to getting the interior of the offensive line figured out, which is like what we know helped Ben Johnson's offense so much in Detroit and like allowed him to do a lot of the run concept stuff that he really liked, a lot of the play action concepts that he really liked. So like to me, this was like a strong signal that he wants to have a top 10 offensive line in Chicago. And so getting the interior, because you can get interior players through free agency and through trades. And then like now it's going to be about like making sure their tackles are in a good spot, which, as we're about to talk about, like could be draft, could be some other way just through natural development. So that's the next part that I'm watching out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what was so cool about the Bears offseason is that because their cap situation is so strong, they were able to make these trades for guys like Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, where the draft capital is not as much as you would anticipate giving up because the teams may have released them anyway. And so I think it was Joe Thuney they got for like a 4th round pick, which is rock solid. You're getting an all-pro level guard who ended up playing tackle towards the end of the year, but someone who's really good at guard. And you're getting him for the cost of like a 4th round pick. You're not going to have to pay him too much for now, but I really respect what the Bears have done. And it really is that Ben Johnson approach where you make the offensive line stronger, and therefore you can afford to invest in running game in the draft and later in free agency if you feel the need to do so. And you really just build the game off of the run, which is what the Lions have done so successfully. I anticipate the Bears doing something similar. So now we can kind of cover the overall depth chart of the Lions. Let me see if I can pull that up, or of the Bears, not the Lions. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, they really still have some strengths at skill position. DJ Moore is really, really good. Roma Dunze, they invested heavily. Their offensive line is completely revamped, especially in the interior. And Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright are not terrible tackles. So I'm anticipating this line to be a lot better. I think where they may really go in the draft, and this is what we can cover a little bit, is their defensive approach. So they did spend a little bit in free agency on Grady Jarrett, Dio Odenigbo, but there's not that premier pass rusher aside from Montez Sweat. So what do you think are like the main strengths and weaknesses of the Bears that we can tackle whenever we get to the draft simulation?
Yeah, no, I definitely think they still need help along the defensive line. Like you have some shorter term solutions with Grady Jarrett, who's a little bit older, but still can be decent. And then Gravon Dexter is like an okay player, but nothing too strong. So like maybe they go defensive tackle. And then I agree with you, like edge is also like something else that I'm sure they want to put some resources in there as well. And then corner two, like I think if you're a member of the Bears coaching staff, like you probably don't want to walk into the season with Tyreek Stevenson as your CB2 again, just because of how last year went. So I think that's a weakness that we probably want to look at when we're looking at the Bears in the draft.
Yeah, 100%. And one small tangent: how good is that Jalen Johnson contract now with all the like cap inflation that's gone up? Yeah, I think it's a great deal for the Bears. All right, so let's transition a bit to a PFF mock draft simulator. So the Bears are picking at the 10th overall spot. And let's keep all the settings the same, leaning more towards public. Positional value is going to matter, but not a ton depending on the team. And then draft for needs. Yeah, we're going to keep all this the same. We're going to keep the speed probably here for now. We can transition a little bit if someone falls. But let's get things started. Before we really hit the start button, was there any major approach you want to take to this first round? Would you consider trading up, trading back, or sticking and picking? Or does it kind of depend on how the board falls?
Yeah, definitely depends on how the board falls. I think the Bears are in a spot where like they don't need any position. So for them, like trading up probably isn't going to do a ton, but would definitely be open to trading back. Trying to get like extra day two pick that you can like spend on a running back or something, just to like make you feel better about getting the extra draft capital.
Yeah, and one small tangent is the PFF mock draft simulator is great. There is kind of a way to abuse it where you can collect like 4th, 5th round picks. Like change. And so we'll keep things a little bit realistic in that regard and not just take like everyone's 4th round pick by dropping a few spots. But let's get things started now and see how the board falls out. Okay, maybe this is a little too slow. Okay, let's pause real quick. All right, Armand Mimbu went, Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty went to 4. I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be very interesting. All right, so we are on the board. We have Ted McMillan, Will Campbell, Jahdae Barron, Malachi Starks, James Pierce, Mike Green, and then Will Johnson here. Were there any names that were really sticking out for you at this pick, or would you consider trading back?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely look at the trade back opportunities, but Will Campbell to me, like that's someone I'm like intrigued by taking here because I think he could be a tackle in the league, and like I think I was talking to EJ Snyder at the combine. He had a really good point about he's like, I would let Will Campbell fail at tackle first and then move him to guard before instead of just like not trying it at all. And I was like, yeah, that definitely makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially because the Bears have a really good guard situation right now. So I don't think they're going to have to shove him into guard for now. They can afford to let him fail a tackle. And then if one of those guards ends up walking later in free agency, they can move him to guard if it doesn't end up working out. I think that's a great point. Let's see the trade value we can get. So the Colts are interested in trading up, Steelers, Texans, Bills. I think if we're going to trade down, Colts probably makes more sense. One guy that's really sticking in my head right now is Jahdae Barron. He's a really good cornerback you could pair up with Jalen Johnson. He has that versatility to play safety, to play like nickel corner, or to end up playing the outside boundary. So I will leave the decision to you. Would you want to trade back to 14, or do you want to stick and pick one of either Will Campbell or Jahdae Barron?
Yeah, you talked me into Jahdae Barron there, so I definitely like getting that second cornerback position locked down. So definitely.
All right, then let's do it. Jahdae Barron, come on down. You are officially a Chicago Bear. All right, we can kind of speed things up a bit here. Don't anticipate trading up. All right, let's see who's on the board. I really don't hate Nick Scorton here. Really good edge rusher from Texas A&M, especially his physical traits. 17% pass rush win rate, really, really high among edge rushers. And 6'4", 285, that's perfectly acceptable size. Is there anyone else that you are interested in potentially acquiring, or does trading back look good to you?
Yeah, I mean, Scorton looks great there. Like I think, yeah, like you said, like very, very productive edge rusher, has has some of the measurables that you would want, which really matters at edge. So I could definitely get behind taking him at 39 here.
All right, let's do it. Nick Scorton. So you get two premium positions. You get really good cornerback, really good edge rusher. I think this is going great for the Bears so far. All right, and then just a few picks later, I really like Josh Connerly here. He's potentially a guard convert, 6'4", 315, so he can kind of work at guard if you need, work at tackle if you need. Was he the one that got leveled by Mike Green in the Senior Bowl? Or was that?
Oh, I think that might have been him. Yeah,
that might have been him. That's not enough to dissuade me from him. But
yeah, I mean, we did point out tackle as a position of need. So, so yeah, I mean, I think he would be good there as well.
All right, we'll take Josh Connerly. So we're really going heavy on the premium positions, which I think makes sense. But Ben Johnson is someone who loves his running backs. And
yeah,
I don't know if Scatterbo is the type of archetype for Ben Johnson, but I don't hate it. Scatterbo, he has a really interesting profile because he's a great receiving running back despite not being super fast. He can break a lot of tackles. There's also Dylan Sampson. Did you have a player you like more between these two?
Yeah, I do think like Sampson really intrigues me here. Like I agree with you. Like I don't know if Scatterbo is like the right running back to fit the Ben Johnson offense, but I do think like Sampson is, just because he's so elusive. Oh yeah, like the grade there like even shows like he can really do a great job of breaking tackles. He can run in different types of schemes like zone and gap runs, which is like what Ben Johnson's offense likes to do. So I do really like Dylan Sampson here, and I think this is like kind of like the right spot to pick a running back in the third round here, and with like a lot available.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this really is the sweet spot because you're not investing super high draft capital. So if it doesn't end up working out, or if Sampson doesn't age that well, then you're not going to be like really paying for it. But you're still getting someone who could be really productive and could be a guy to pair with DeAndre Swift. All right, here's where things get a little bit muddier for me. I am not as familiar with some of these players. I do know Jarquez Hunter, Quinn Ewers. I don't know about you, but I think a guy falling from 76 and us getting him at 148 is going to be pretty good value. 13% pass rush win rate is pretty high, and he doesn't have to start right away whenever you have Grady Jarrett potentially coming in as that starter. How do you feel about Vernon Broughton?
Yeah, I don't know a ton about him, but like all the measurables that you're showing here, like look really good in his favor, and his player that look like he's improved every year of college. So, so I'm totally in on him, even though not knowing much about him.
Let's do it. Yes, sir. All right. So we get him in the 5th round. I think that's pretty good value there. All right. And then we are going on down. This may be trade back spot. I don't know if we can get an extra 7th round pick by trading down, but I would not hate that move. Let's see. The Falcons, the Commanders. Yeah, I'm fine with sticking and picking just because you're not really going to get maybe a future 7th, but teams get a little greedy in the 7th round. At this point, it's really just flyers, and we can look at positions of need for the Bears. We've kind of already addressed running back, defensive line. We've addressed a little bit. Safety, we have not invested a lot in. So I think Malachi Moore could be a guy we could invest in. He looks at 23% forced to completion, 89 coverage grade, 10.9 average depth of run tackle. I think all these look like pretty good measurables for a guy to get in the 7th round. All right, let's do that.
Them there.
All right, and then last pick. I'm kind of surprised these guys fell so far. I did like Will Shepherd.
Yeah, I like taking LeJohntay Wester there. Like I think he's like a decent receiver. So taking him at the end of the draft.
Yeah, 66.7% contested catch rate. Despite being 5'11", 167. I think that's really interesting. And that's another example of a guy who kind of solves his own problem. So yeah, I say we go with LeJohntay Wester.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, so I wonder what our grade is going to be. I think it's going to be pretty high. Premium position investment, getting some guys who fell pretty hard. We ended up getting an A-. I will gladly take that.
A-, I'll take that.
Yeah,
better than a lot of my exams. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Jahdae Barron, Nick Scorton, Josh Connerly, Dylan Sampson, Vernon Broughton, Malachi Moore, LeJohntay Wester. So I think that improves a lot of the positions they need. They needed an edge rusher they could trust. Jahdae Barron's a great cornerback who has that versatility. Josh Carnley could end up playing tackle or sliding into guard if someone ends up walking. Dylan Sampson could be a starting running back. I think that's a great draft for the Bears.
Yeah, no, I mean it was fun draft for sure. Like you said, really stacked up on premium positions at the beginning of the draft. Got like a running back, that you can hope that is pretty helpful alongside DeAndre Swift, and then just took some players that have some talent, but fell for various reasons later in the draft.
Exactly. All right, so let's transition to the third place finishing team, and that is going to be the Green Bay Packers. So let me pull up their moves. So yeah, they did not have the most active free agency. They're one of those teams that invest heavily in their draft picks, re-signing guys like that, and then just signing a few supplemental guys here and there. But their two big investments were Aaron Banks and Nate Hobbs. What did you think of those moves?
Yeah, I mean, I was very surprised by the Aaron Banks signing. Like, I didn't necessarily think that was a huge need for the Packers, and then like the money, just like the pure amount of money that they spent on him was surprising to me, because the Packers like usually don't like to do a ton in free agency. Like, we both know that as fans of like other teams in the NFC North, that they're like huge on draft and develop and sign their own guys. And so for them to go out and pay that much money for a guard, like, I don't know what it necessarily signals in Matt LaFleur's offense next year, but I'm sure they had some sort of plan for what the offense looks like with like a guard that they can really trust.
Yeah, I think you put it very nicely about being surprised by the Aaron Banks signing. I was also surprised, but yeah, it's because I don't really think he's worth that. And he's an above average run blocker, but he's not a very good pass blocker. And I know the Packers do like being a run heavy team, but that's quite a bit of money to give to him. Now, I do know most of that is not guaranteed, but whenever like the big positive about a contract is, hey, at least it's not guaranteed. That really says, hey, that's not the best value that we're getting here. And so, yeah, I think that was an interesting move for them to make. But let's pull up their depth chart, look at some positions of need, and then we can go into a draft acting as the Packers. Now, if we're truly acting as the Packers, we would probably take some random linebacker and it would end up working out. But that's how the Packers tend to operate, and it works out pretty well. All right, so starting with their offense, we have Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, all of those like B+ receivers. So they don't really have a true number one yet, unless you talk to the Dontavian Wicks stands out there. And then you have Rashid Walker, Aaron Banks, Elton Jenkins, Zach Tom is a really good tackle. Tucker Kraft, good tight end. Jordan Love, solid quarterback. And then Josh Jacobs is their RB1. Before we go to defense, was there any immediate position of need you noticed in the offense for them?
Yeah, the only thing I think that you might be able to nitpick with their offense going into next year is if Christian Watson isn't able to play for most of the season, like, do they want to get another like type of receiver like him in there? Just, not for just this year, but like even just like have someone for the future, because you're missing like a true like big body downfield like guy who can clear out DBs for other receivers type receiver in their offense. And so that was something that jumped out to me. But other than that, like, I think it's a pretty good roster.
Yeah, I think no doubt they're going to have a really good offense because one, like, they have an amazing play caller, and then two, Jordan Love ended up being pretty good last year. But I think you bring up a great point that they still don't have a guy where you can say, hey, go beat man coverage and do it in less than a second. Yeah. And so they have all of these like B+ receivers. Now, if we're going really realistic, I doubt they take a receiver in the first round, but if there is a receiver there, I'm fully fine with taking one that we trust.
Yeah, definitely agree.
And then for defense, their defense, they've invested a lot of draft capital, and it's still going to be pretty solid. Rashawn Gary was really productive, not quite last year, but the year before that. Devontae Wyatt, solid. Kenny Clark's been good for like ever. Kingsley, Quay Walker, high invested. Edrin Cooper was a really good draft pick last year. Sorry, there's a lot of ads. Jair Alexander, Xavier McKinney. Yeah, I like their secondary quite a bit. Alexander may get released if things don't end up working out like contract-wise, so they could go corner there. But yeah, they don't have a ton of needs. Just some guys that we can make the team better by investing in. And so were there any notable things that we should do on the defensive end?
Yeah, I mean, I do think corner and edge are positions like they probably would want to improve at on defense. But yeah, I mean, like I agree with you. Like the rest of the defensive roster is like in a pretty decent spot.
Mhm.
So like I think like they're in a pretty unique position in the draft of like being able to draft players for like a 2-3 year timeline instead of like needing them early. And you see that with like someone like Lucas Van Ness right there, where it's like he's someone who was drafted in the first round in 2023, like hasn't done a ton in the league, but like maybe he breaks out this year just because he was like a little bit more developmental, and like that is like the Packers thing to do in the draft. When it comes to picking players like that.
Yeah, they're always picking like meat and potatoes, and it's never the fun name that Packers fans want to hear, but it almost always ends up working out for them. So
Yes, that
I
is true.
am ready to go into a mock draft for the Packers. So I really don't anticipate them trading up unless a really good receiver falls. We can go a little slow just in case that does happen. But yeah, I'm anticipating receiver, edge rusher, potentially left tackle. I know their right tackle's rock
Mm.
solid, but let's see. Abdul Carter goes to 8. That's crazy. Jamar Stewart at
Yeah,
10.
they'd be very happy if that happened. See,
Does it show the big board? All right, we
is
can just let it run.
yeah.
Oh wait, did Ted go? Okay, he went
Oh no,
12.
he went at 12. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Matthew Golan's gone. Okay. Oh, see, this is a weird spot for the Packers because Luther Burden is really good after the catch. He's not really the type of archetype I think the Packers should be looking for. Um, yeah, he tested not amazing in the combine. His yards per rep
Mhm.
run are really efficient. Contested catch rate is solid. His grade against man coverage is solid, but he's not quite the type of guy that they're looking for that you mentioned. Someone who's like a big body you can trust to beat man coverage. He's 5'11", which is not
Yeah,
super tall. So
yeah.
I think edge rusher may be a little bit better here. Was there any name that's really calling out to you?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, I do like Luther Burden. I don't think he fits exactly what the Packers are looking for at
Mhm.
receiver. Derek Harmon is a name that's interesting to me. Just to like, I mean, I do like him as a prospect, and like
Mhm.
he's someone again that like fits the Packers timeline, and I think he's like a pretty good player. So that would definitely be an option, as well as. Yeah, the Texas corner there again with Jade Barron,
Mhm.
being like another option at outside corner there as well.
Yeah, I think we may just take Jade Barron in every draft to avoid doing that. Um, I think there may be an opportunity to trade down if the Packers want to. I do also like James Pierce Jr. here because he was ultra productive. I know there's some like off the field concerns with him, but he 23% pass rush win rate. Really good at timing the snap, which is a difficult skill for edge rushers to learn.
Hmm.
He's not the biggest guy in the world, 6'5", really tall, but weighs 243. But he's a really good pure pass rusher. I wonder if they end up pairing him with Lucas Van Ness. But I do like Derek Harmon a lot. Um, I think we go Derek Harmon here, but maybe we can get some value trading down.
Yeah. I mean, I'd totally be behind this.
26 and 90. Yeah, I think this is good value, and it's like
Hmm.
somewhat realistic. I don't think we're going to get much more than this. But if
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's
Johnny
see if
Barron
Derek Harmon
goes,
is still
Vikings take out
there.
Marion Hampton. Derek Harmon is still there. All right, this is perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a great trade.
so we talked about Omar Norman Lott being one of the most productive pass rushers, but Derek Harmon was arguably the most productive interior pass rusher, 17.6% pass rush win rate. And he's pretty stout against the run, too. 6'5", 310. Run defense grade 80, not amazing, but pretty solid. I like Derek Harmon a lot. Could be a potential Kenny Clark substitute as the years go on. All right, now can I speed this thing up? Okay, this is not quite turbo speed, but you know what? That's okay. Shadura goes. What is Shadura goes 42 to the Jets.
42.
Now,
Wow.
I've seen him linked to the Jets, but more likely at like the 6 overall pick than later on there. All right. Who do we have available? Jack Sawyer. I don't hate him. I know he's a bit of a controversial prospect, but he was really productive. He's not like the longest guy in terms of like arm length, but he is 6'5", 260. He was really productive in the college football playoffs, which I think there is some value to that. And then one guy that is calling my name is Darian Porter. He's like lightning fast. Now he's terrible against the run, 36.8 run defense grade, but he's 6'4" and runs a 4.4. So that is not really the type of prospect you see every day. And they do need a corner in case Jair Alexander does fall.
Yeah, I'm totally in on that. Yeah, I mean, I would go back and forth between Porter and Restrepo here. Like I like Restrepo a lot, and he kind of fits the Watson mold. But let's go with the corner because that's like definitely the bigger need.
All right, let's do it. Darian Porter. I think like they may rank that a little bit low in terms of grading, but I think the potential upside is so valuable that to me that's well worth it.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, Omar Norman Lott goes at 70. I think that's good value. RJ Harvey, Chris Paul Jr. He's someone who I like a lot. Maybe not for the Packers specifically, but yeah, there's Terrence Ferguson. We already invested in defensive interior, so as tempting as that is to get him again. Kevin Winston Jr. I think they're solid at safety. DJ Giddens, they don't really need. Jalen Royals, I also like quite a bit. We don't have a receiver yet, and he's someone I know Sam Monson likes quite a bit. He's 6'2", 205, so he's not massive, but he is a really efficient route runner, and so he can actually win against man coverage. I quite a bit like Jalen Royals here.
Yeah, let's go with the Royals. That's a great one.
All right, one more pick left. All right. Tate Ratledge, we already have a guard with the Aaron Banks signing. Lathan Ransom was like a monster defender against the run, 93.5. That's just absurd. Devin Neal, Charles Cross. At this point, the Packers don't really have a lot of immediate needs, so potentially we can get some trade down value here. 96, 134. Dropping 6 spots, you get another like 4th round pick. That's cool with me.
Yeah. They're really stacking up on the draft capital.
Yeah, I think I'll probably limit myself to maybe 2 trade downs per team just to not get crazy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Dorian Strong is solid. Jared Wilson's a center. We have center. I'm cool with going Lathan Ransom here. He's really good against the run. And it's, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to teach a guy to slow down than it is to speed up. In Lathan Ransom, you have no trouble teaching him to speed. Like, he's already really fast. And so I think that's important. He's someone who plays really hard. I like Lathan Ransom quite a bit here.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. And then we can kind of fly through most of these picks because we have so many. May run a little bit over time, like covering each one too much. All right. Yeah, once we start getting into the later 4th is whenever my familiarity with some of these players goes. Does PFF just hate this guy? He dropped it to 76 again.
Yeah, it's crazy. As a rank of 76, ADP of 140. Like that's like I guess huge difference.
Yeah, I guess like Trevor Sycamore just loves him a lot, and then maybe like the public just doesn't. One guy I want to talk about that may not be a pairing for the Packers is Willie Lampkin. So he's 5'11" and he's 290. So he's like tiny for a guard, but he was really good against the pass. He's 90.4 zone grade. So really good in that regard. I think at this point, we just take what we see value in. So to me, like Willie Lampkin is fine. He could be like a swing guard or potentially a center backup.
Yeah.
I'm cool with taking him there. And then, let's just fly him through where we see value. Just give me a name that you like, and then we can end up drafting a guy like that.
Yeah, I do like Damian Martinez a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, and just to have insurance behind Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, and he's arguably like the best pure runner aside from Genty in the draft. 6 foot 232, so he's a big guy. Could be a goal line back, especially because AJ Dillon is not with the team anymore, so he could fill that like change of pace role if Wilson doesn't end up doing that well. And getting him 4th round I think is great value. Quinn Ewers goes to the Dolphins. Vernon Broughton is still there. Interesting. Okay, we have Kobe King, Isaac Tesla, Seth McLaughlin. I'm cool with going receiver again. 69.2% contested catch rate. That's someone who's a lot better at 50-50 balls than most of their team. He's 6'3", 200, so he's that like traditional X size build. So Pat Bryant, you are a Packer. Yeah, then at this point, it's mainly just flyers. So I'm cool with investing in the small needs the Packers may have without anticipating them having to start. All right, this is not really turbo
for
speed.
sure.
All right, and then Packers next up.
It does, it does still allow you to read all the picks.
Yes. All right, Vernon Broughton. He's almost calling my name like the Green Goblin mask. Like he's good value. And like I said, he's very productive. So I'm cool with drafting him again. All right, and then 237, 250. That's all we have left. Let's look at our picks while that's going on. We had Derek Harmon, Darian Porter, Jalen Royals. Not really immediate needs aside from maybe edge rusher. So let's take a flyer on a guy like that.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, let's see the best available edge. Ethan Downs, I don't know who you are, but I trust you. 13.9% pass rush, 85 true set pass rush rate. I think that's pretty good.
It seems like a designated pass rusher type, so I'm totally in for that. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, 250. That's all we got left. This could be like backup quarterback territory if someone falls. Guard Theo Weiss.
Oh, Theo Weiss, I feel like wouldn't be a bad
right,
like late round shot. Yeah,
absolutely. 265. Contested catch rate isn't amazing, but we already have that guy. They're 6'2". Let's do it. That just kind of gives wide receiver name as well. Theo Weiss, I trust that. All right, we are finally done drafting for the Packers. They didn't love the Derek Harmon pick. I'm fine with that. James Pierce Jr. is pretty solid, but Derek Harmon is also very good. We ended up getting an A-. So
there you go.
Yeah, we take that. Yeah, so at this point then, they get quite a bit stronger at defensive interior. Derek Harmon doesn't start right away, but Darian Porter ends up being a guy that could start opposite Jair Alexander if he ends up staying, or in place of Alexander if he ends up going. Jalen Royals, a really good wide receiver. Yeah, I like this draft quite a bit. Were there any big takeaways from this draft?
Yeah, I thought this was a fun draft to do. Like the Packers' role, like we said, is like very interesting, where they don't have like any crazy immediate needs, but like just like got pieces like on both sides of the ball and in areas where we could see them improving. And so, I definitely think these are all players that like could play like certain roles their rookie year and then like expand after that.
100%. And whenever you trade down this amount of times, you just get more bites at the apple. And a lot of intelligent teams do that because whenever you don't have immediate needs, you can afford to just take those like dart throws. And a lot of times it ends up paying off and you get cheap contracts for 4 years, the rookie scale deal. So up next, we have my favorite team, and that is the Vikings. They had arguably the most active free agency period among any team. We already talked a bit about some of their signings, but were there any main takeaways that the Vikings have done over the course of the free agency period?
Yeah, I mean, the overarching takeaway is like, well, this roster is loaded, right? Like you come into the off season and you're like, Vikings played well last year, but like I'm unsure about their interior defensive line. I'm unsure about their interior offensive line. And like they go out and they just address like all of that in like one free agency, right? Like with the center and the guard on offense, and then you talked about Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave on defense, and so that was really nice. Getting like another CB in there and Isaiah Rodgers, and then bringing Byron Murphy back. So I still think there are some needs on this team, but overall, just like roster's in a great spot, and like they are pretty open in the draft, especially relative to last year where they really needed a quarterback and like an edge rusher in the first round.
Yeah, and what I find so interesting is Kwesi has this type of investing in highly drafted, athletic, talented guys that have not worked out that well with the team that drafted them. So Jeff Okudah and Rondale Moore are guys who fit in this archetype that were signed either yesterday or the day before that. But yeah, they're really talented guys that just haven't worked out that well. And so I really don't hate the concept of investing in these guys. If it works out, that's awesome. If it doesn't work out, oh well, you spent like $3 million on it total. So yeah, I think they have some needs, especially at cornerback, because if you are counting on Jeff Okudah to be a starter, you're probably not in a great spot. But yeah, their roster I think is very, very talented.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, I mean that has like been the really interesting thing to me to watch during free agency is like, you know, you can really see how it worked out for the Eagles last year. We're like Mekhi Becton, talented, you know, high pick, but like not performing that well. They bring him in, you know, great success with him. Saquon, like talented, performing well, but like not like having the production that you would want from a top pick. Like awesome season for him, but like it also doesn't work out sometimes. Right? Like Jalen Reagor, right? So like you just want to like keep taking shots at those guys because like they have high priors. It's been really interesting to watch the Vikings and some other teams do that.
Yeah, and those teams tend to be the more like analytically savvy teams. And so I really respect it a lot because, yeah, it's really just like low risk, high reward. And so I think great moves by Kwesi there. Let's cover a little bit of their depth chart. So we have Jefferson, Addison, they're not going anywhere. Jalen Naylor is the wide receiver 3. He had a relatively productive season last year. He could end up being replaced by Rondale Moore if they like him better. But their offensive line is mostly solid aside from Blake Brandel, who didn't have the best year. But that production really fell off once Christian Darrisaw, the starting left tackle, who's all-pro, Pro Bowl level tackle, ended up going down. And so would not be surprised to see them take a guard early on just because that's their most immediate need at that position. They have J.J. McCarthy, who's going to be like their starting quarterback coming forward without all of the Aaron Rodgers rumors floating around anymore.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say on offense, like the only two parts I would say that they could get better as like wide receiver 3 and then left guard, like you said. Yeah.
No, I think that's great analysis because typically with the offensive line being a weak link position, it's important to make sure you don't have any glaring issue. And I think Blake Brandel is bordering on that glaring issue. But if you end up investing in someone who's really good right away, that becomes like one of the best offensive lines in football, which the Vikings have not had for quite some time. So onto the defense, we have Jonathan Allen was their big splash at defensive interior. Harrison Phillips is the nose tackle, a really good run defender. Javon Hargrave, also a really good pass rusher. Not really in need at defensive line, at least for now, but they could invest in future defensive linemen. Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace, Andrew Van Ginkel, Isaiah Rodgers, Josh Metellus, Harrison Smith, the ageless wonder that is Harrison Smith, Mekhi Blackman, Byron Murphy Jr. So there are some needs there. Were there any big things you noticed for the Vikings on defense that we may want to attack in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, probably could get another defensive tackle in there. Like I know they spent on that a bit in free agency, but still probably can get it there. And then corner is like the obvious one, right? Like just need to like throw a bunch of bodies at corner. Yeah.
No, I think that's the move, and that may be the approach we take in the PFF mock draft. So let me load that up real quick. But yeah, I think one of the main things that the Vikings did that I thought was so good is that they treated free agency like they were treating the weaknesses and not going in saying we have to take this player in the draft. Because when you do that, you have to reach in a player or you have to, I don't know, like make some move that you don't really love. And whenever you're attacking the weaknesses, a lot of these analytically sound front offices do that because they know, okay, now I can take best player available. And I think the Vikings did a pretty good job of doing that. So let's go into a mock draft with the Vikings. I promise we will not trade up because the Vikings do not have any draft capital this year. 24, 97, 139, 187. That's all we got. So probably going to trade back unless someone we really like falls. But we are at the 24 spot and we have some guys available. Is there anyone calling your name now, or do you think trade back is going to be the move?
Yeah, I mean, we just like don't have much draft capital, because of the trade ups last year. So I do think we should look at a trade back.
Yep. Trade back. We can go to 43. That may put us away from like the Derek Harmon types or the Grace Abel types, but I don't hate that because I think This draft specifically is very, like, the curve is flat. There's some top heavy guys at the very top, like the Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. But once you get past that group of players, there's just a lot of guys that are roughly the same in terms of talent. And so, yeah, I think trading back is going to be the move here.
Yeah, for sure.
I think 43, 75, 100. Yeah, I think this is going to be a good move. We could get more, but at this point, it doesn't get super realistic. So I'm cool with trading back with these picks, and we will see who's still available.
Yeah, that's a great haul.
I think so too. And now here, there's a few approaches we could take. TJ Sanders, a really productive pass rusher, not the best run defender in the world, out of South Carolina, 6'4", 290, pretty good 3 technique type of guy. We could end up taking him, or the 2 notable corners are Trey Amos and Siobhan Revelle. And Trey Amos is like the safe, almost never made mistakes with Ole Miss. And then Siobhan Revelle is someone who is a big question mark, but he is athletically gifted. He's 6'3", 193. He ran a 4.4. So someone who's really talented. Did you want to go defensive interior or cornerback if you had to pick between these?
I do like Amos here. Like I liked how he played in college. I think he fits the Flores defense pretty well. So I think going with him, like, yeah, I get your point about going for like the riskier corner, but like I don't think like the Vikings can afford to do that at like that position group just because like they just like need bodies there, right? And like that's like the weakness of their defense right now.
No, I think that's a great way to put it. Is because if they had great cornerbacks and they just wanted to get one that they can invest in later, you could go the Siobhan Revelle route. But I agree with you that Trey Amos is going to be much safer, and he may be someone that has to start in his rookie season. You don't really want to take that risk on some athlete that could be good, but bad things could happen.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have the 75 pick that we got from San Francisco by trading back. Dylan Sampson's here. I don't really anticipate them drafting a running back this high because they traded for Jordan Mason. They have Aaron Jones. Benjamin Morrison, we could go corner again. At this point, most of the really good interior pass rushers are gone, which I guess is fine whenever you get stronger at cornerback. Or we could trade down. Were there any guys that were really calling your name at this spot?
Benjamin Morrison does intrigue me on here if you want to like double dip at corner. Like the injury was brutal, but like I loved the way that he played for Notre Dame throughout his whole career there. So like pending health, I think he'd be a good choice.
Yeah, I actually like this pick. I'm going to go Benjamin Morrison as well because it's important to throw bodies at the position, like you mentioned. And if you invest in 2 solid cornerbacks and one of them works out, you're okay with that. And so, yeah, I think Benjamin Morrison is a good pick there. We are now tail end of round 3. No one wants to trade up with us, which is a bit unfortunate, but we do have 100 coming up as well. Were there any names that were really calling out here? Isaiah Bond.
Nothing. Isaiah Bond's intriguing. I think character-wise, like hasn't gotten the best reports, but like so talented on the fields.
Yep.
So maybe you think you can fix him. No one like jumps out to me a ton here. So like if there's anyone you like I would go with it.
Jared Wilson, I think, is a really solid center, and the Vikings did invest in center in free agency, but the guy's not super young, and so he could be someone waiting in the wings. I kind of do want to go Isaiah Bond. Like, I know he said he was going to break some 40-time record, and he did not do that. But he is very, very fast on the field. And I think he does allow the Vikings to play a little bit more 11 personnel, that more like McVay type of offense, and as opposed to the 12 personnel thing they've been running a lot recently.
Yeah. No, I'm
going to go Isaiah Bond. Let's shoot for upside.
Yeah.
All right. And then at 100, our guy is still here. I'm not going to take him just to keep things a little bit different, but it actually is in the Vikings' interest to take a guy like that. Yeah, I think Jared Wilson's good here.
Jared Wilson works.
We just talked about him. Yeah, could be waiting in the wings whenever Ryan Kelly ends up retiring or signing with someone else. All right, we have 139, 187. This could also be trade back spot. Let's see if we can get anything out of this. We toss him 188. We give up future. Okay, they don't love that. 143. Okay, see, this is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Drop back 4 spots, pick up an extra 7th rounder. That is cool with me.
There we go. I like that.
All right. And then Quinn Ewers could be a backup quarterback. At this point, I think is going to be ideal to take a running back type of player. Just someone who could end up being the change of pace third running back if the other guys don't end up working out. Is there any running back that's really calling your name here?
So Mullings, I do think has like a bit of untapped potential because he was like moved to running back a little bit later, and like he looked decent to me last year, especially relative to like a 5th round pick. So I wouldn't mind taking him here.
Yeah, I'm completely cool with that. Pretty good in the zone, which the Vikings do run quite a bit of. And he's not really a tiny guy either, 6'2", 233, so he can absorb that contact pretty well. And he did kind of end up winning that position over Donovan Edwards, which was surprising because a lot of people thought he was going to go 2nd, 3rd round last year. But yeah, Khalil Mullings, come on down. Yeah, we could have also gone like Bashal Tootin, someone who really blew up the combine. But like you did some really good work in the past that shows, hey, just because you're a good athlete does not mean you're going to be like this amazing player. All right. And then 187. I think this could be the safety route. The Vikings did end up losing Cam Bynum, and they have Theo Jackson, but Harrison Smith is also not super young. I'm not too familiar.
It's crazy to me that Harrison Smith is still playing. Like,
I know. It's like
I think 2 years ago I helped Matthew Collar with an article because he thought Harrison Smith was going to retire. So like I made some graphs for him. And I was like, oh, that's sad that Harrison Smith retired, and he's still coming back for another year.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is Flores. Like he just loves Brian Flores, and he almost reminds me of Levante David for the Bucks, where like you're like, okay, at this point he's finally going to fall off. Yeah, and he's just been good. Signs a 1-year deal every year and ends up like being really good. So Caleb Ransall, potential Harrison Smith replacement if he ends up retiring next season.
Nice, I like that.
All right, and then 215 is our last pick. I don't know.
Our guy is still there. Our guy is still there.
Yeah, and we do need a defensive interior pass rusher.
We do have to take him in every draft. I feel like at this point.
Yeah, at this point we have to. Let's do it. Vernon Broughton, come on down.
There we go.
I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to anticipate another A-.
Yeah, I could see that. We are getting some awards every draft. Hopefully you can cash those in for something like it's Dave and Buster's.
Trey Amos, Benjamin Morrison. Vernon Broughton gets an A+. We got an A in this.
A.
May have been the Vernon Broughton pick.
Yeah, we're just juicing our numbers by taking Broughton.
we are every time. Yeah. All right. So yeah, the Vikings, I think they address a lot of their needs here, which is the most important thing to do in the draft. And they get 2 really solid cornerbacks that could battle for a starting position. Isaiah Bond is a really high ceiling guy that could allow you to play 11 personnel. Jared Wilson waits in the wings while Ryan Kelly has his veteran contract expire. Khalil Mullings could be a potential change of pace back. Caleb Ransall, Vernon Broughton, our guy. So were there any notable like moves that we made in this draft that you think are important?
I mean, I do really like double dipping at positions of need, just to, like you said earlier, like just give yourself 2 bites at the apple. So like taking the back-to-back corners, I was excited about. And then, just getting like some like pretty exciting depth positions in as well, to just like really, really build the roster for when you get towards like the end of the season, like playoff time, like making sure your players are healthy or like you have depth kind of waiting in the wings there.
Yep. And so we've been recording for a little bit less than an hour. And in that span, I've become a Vernon Broughton fan. So I really hope he ends up doing well in his NFL career. But we may draft you with the Lions as well. So let's talk about the Lions. And I know you are a Lions fan. Were there any notable moves that they made in free agency, aside from the ones we've already talked about, that you think were worth mentioning? Let me pull up there. There we go. All right. Yep. So DJ Reed, Roy Lopez, a few guys there.
Yeah, I like I said earlier, like I really like bringing in DJ Reed. Re-signing Derek Barnes was pretty good there as well, because when they move on from Anzalone, whether it's next year or the year after, like he'll kind of be pretty important in the defense. And then Levi Ozarinke, I thought was like an interesting one because he like doesn't play that often, but like when he does play, he's like a very efficient pass rusher. But like I don't know how many games you can count on him, but it's like it's worth like a one year $5.5 million shot. And so it's just a lot of just like I said, at the beginning of our show, like it's a lot of just like making sure they're cap healthy going into next year and the season after that, because you have so many extensions coming up with Kirby Joseph and Aiden Hutchinson on top of all the extensions you've already given out. And so there's not a ton they can do in free agency.
Yeah, and I really like the moves that they made in these kind of buy low moves with Levi Onwuzurike, who has not been like the most productive if you go based off pure volume. But like you said, he's been really efficient when he's actually on the field. Similar thing with Marcus Davenport, probably even more so with him. When he was with the Saints 3 years ago, he had like these really high pass rush numbers. His PFF grade was really high, but he just wasn't on the field that much. And when the Vikings signed him, I think it was 2 seasons ago at this point, I was really invested in this guy, and he just gets hurt a lot. And so getting him for 1 year, $5 million, I think is a good like risk to take, because he could end up being really good when he's actually healthy. But let's take a look at the depth chart. Their offense, I think, is just as strong as it was, because they didn't really lose anyone and they didn't really gain much either. So I'm anticipating them to be top 5, top 3 as they were last season. Were there any needs you think they may have at the offensive spots?
Yeah, I mean, rosters in like a very good spot. Like there's really nothing on offense that I think they need. Like, maybe they'll take interior offensive line just to have some backup, like a backup plan there if Mahogany at right guard like doesn't come along with his development like they want. Or they take like a more of like a project at left tackle for when they move on from Taylor Decker after this season.
Yeah, and once again, because they have so few needs, they can afford to invest in these premium positions or guys that could be waiting in the wings. And so let's transition a bit to defense. They don't have really that many immediate needs. DJ Reed is their big free agency acquisition. Aiden Hutchinson is an absolute star at the defensive interior or defensive edge spot. Were there any real needs you see there that we could attack in the draft?
Yeah, I think long-term solution at the edge rusher position opposite Hutchinson is going to be a priority, and then same with like DJ Reader, like getting someone behind him, and then probably like another corner would be good because like Arnold like had some up and down moments last year, and so like you don't know exactly what he'll look like this year, and if it's not good, you want to have someone else there just in case.
Yeah, 100%. So let's fire up the final mock draft simulator of today. And once again, not really anticipating the Lions to trade up, just so that they don't end up missing out on draft capital. This may have worked out perfectly for us. So 28, we have James Pierce Jr. falling. I think he could be a potential solution opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Really productive, really fast, 6'5", 243. I think he ran a sub 4.5 or something along those lines, which is really, really good. I think he may be the pick here, if you are cool with that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it could be him or Gray Zabel, who's like really versatile at offensive line, but James Pierce Jr., really high ceiling there. All right, and then 60, towards the tail end of round 2, we have some guys: Jack Sawyer, Darian Porter. See, these are where we do similar things, but I don't disagree with it. Like 6'4", 200 pounds, and lightning fast.
I mean, Darian Porter, I think would be perfect.
Yeah, let's do it. Darian Porter, come on down. And yeah, he could be either a guy to pair with Terrion Arnold, or if he doesn't end up working out that well, then we could end up taking him later. All right, Vernon Broughton, I think we're going to save him for later. I know we can get him later. This could be trade down territory. How are the Lions at safety? I mean, they're good with Kirby Joseph. How about the other?
And Brian Branch, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Brian Branch. Yeah. He's like their slot cornerback as well. So they're really good there. Tez Johnson, I'm not sure your opinions on him, because he's tiny. Like, he's tiny. He's 5'10", 165.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really,
I mean, tiny receivers can work. Like we've seen it work a little bit with Worthy and Atwell to an extent, but like I don't think the Lions would draft him, because like J-Mo's already like the skinny, fast receiver. Yep. So yeah, I think they would probably look elsewhere.
Yeah, Jared Wilson, we drafted him last time, and he's a solid center. I don't know. We may. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I would look to trade down here. Like,
Yeah,
no
I
one
think
like jumps out to
no
me a
one's
ton. So
screaming. Yeah. Let's see, 105. I think 115. We can get some good value here.
yeah,
Yeah, 115, 152, 225. I think this is within the realm of realism, and you get some good draft capital.
for sure. Yeah.
All right, Kobe Bryant. He's also very small, but he's feisty, man. 91 run defense grade despite being 175.
I mean, the
I
Lions
don't.
would love a player like that.
They
Yeah.
do, and I really don't hate double dipping at corner because, like you mentioned, like this is a really important position, and you need guys who you can trust.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. And like we
I'm
really
cool with
saw the
Kobe
depth
Bryant.
of the corner position just like wiped away last year at the end of the season. So
Yeah,
I'm sure that's like
and
a focus of their draft.
yeah, and you never know when that's going to happen. And so getting just a lot of guys you can trust, I think would be great for the Lions. All right, 130. We're in the fourth round. Brendan Broughton's still there. I think we can. I think we can go another round without having
I do like Torrey Horton here.
Torrey Horton. Yeah, wide receiver out of Colorado State, 6'3", 185. Yeah, could be a potential. Wide receiver 3 if they're not loving what's going on over there. Yeah, I like him quite a bit. Let's do it. All right, we have quite a few picks left. All right, I said we go one more round, and then we'll get him. We'll get our guy. Okay. We went really heavy on defense aside from Torrey Horton. We talked a little bit about a potential need at guard just for long term. Connor Colby, Tyler Cooper, Seth McLaughlin. I don't hate any of these guys.
Yeah, your choice out of those, like I think like any of them would work.
Yeah, let's do Connor Colby. Let's see. He's a little bit more of a zone guy, which I think works for the Lions. Let's do it. Okay. If our guy's there, we got to take him now. Yep, there he is. All right. So we're getting an A+ grade on this pick specifically, and that is cool with me.
And we probably could have waited
we may have been able to. We may have been able to.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure we kept it up, but yeah, he I think could be someone who could replace Levi Onwuzurike if things don't work out with him. After all, he was signed to just a 1-year deal. So I like that pick a lot. Not just because he's our guy, but also I think he is productive.
Gadsden intrigues me here from just like a personal diversity standpoint.
Yes.
Because I don't think he blocks that much, if I remember right, but like he can just like kind of be put into the slot or kind of like lined up in line, and Laporta can stay in and block. Like I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, it looks like he's fine against the run, not something like amazing. But yeah, he could be a potential 12 personnel guy, shore up that run game a bit. Yeah, Gadsden is cool with me. All right, we have 2 picks left, 228 and 244. At this point, it's really just take your pick on whoever. We could take a backup quarterback. If we want Teddy Buchanan, Jimmy Horn Jr., someone out of Colorado who's pretty good, Malachi Moore. Is there anyone that's really calling your name?
Yeah, I mean, Teddy Buchanan, I feel like would be fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
Linebacker, Alex Anzalone replacement if things don't work out there. All right, last pick of the draft, 244. There's Dylan Fairchild. He was a good guard out of Georgia, especially against the pass, and good zone blocker. Yeah, I'm cool with going Dylan Fairchild.
That's a good one. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So I think we're getting, I think A- here.
I think A-.
A+ pick for James Pierce. Dorian Porter gets that. There we go. All right.
Hey, perfect. You nailed it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Tej. Were there any big takeaways that you got for the Lions or just the NFC North as a whole if they were to go this like trade down, pick a lot of guys route? I mean, very fun.
Yeah, it was very, very fun. It was a great exercise to do this. Like, my main takeaway is just like I think we're going to see a lot of corners drafted by the NFC North, and then a decent amount of defensive linemen as well.
Yeah, and what I really like about the mock draft simulator is it gives you the opportunity to just like take each concept to the extreme. And we didn't do a ton of that in this draft, but trading down, you can see how you get value, or trading up, you can see how you get these premium positions. And so it's just really fun to do exercises like this. And I'm really looking forward to doing it for the rest of the NFL teams. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Tej. I'm sure listeners already know, but just in case, where can the listeners find your work?
Yeah, so I do stats and scheme podcasts like throughout the season. We're taking like a bit of an off season break right now. But if not, you can check me out on Twitter at Tej FB Analytics, and then I'm also making some TikToks here and there with the same username.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. This is Analytics with Asa, and thank you for listening.